So this is Pre Hines with LD Art, the designer on this project, and I'm Laura Elfline of Mighty House Construction, the builder on the project. And this is our garden kitchen edition that we did in West Seattle together. Here's what the exterior of it looked like after the addition was built. And in this photo on the left, you see what it looked like before the addition was built on that wall.
You can definitely see that it's a much more gracious entry, much more gracious connection between indoors and outdoors than what was there before. Also, in that middle photo, you can get an idea that, most of the interior of the house was really quite lovely with all these details, natural wood trim and these cool archways and beautiful windows that just wasn't continued into the kitchen. I think the kitchen had been remodeled at some point during the life of the home and just looked like it had been plopped in from another era. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the old stairs. In our addition, we rebuilt these stairs, but the old stairs were kind of around the corner from the kitchen, so there wasn't a direct connection to the outdoors, and it was pretty tight and narrow. These don't even meet code. They're so tight and narrow and steep. So this is a view of what was. And this is another view into that kitchen from that dining room. So you can get an idea of how it really, style-wise didn't suit the rest of the house. And then also it's hard to tell from photos, but the cabinets were they weren't great quality to start with, and were starting to, not work very well. And the flooring was really failing. So it was time. And there were a lot of goals, for this kitchen addition. Obviously the homeowner really loves to throw parties, particularly garden parties. And so having more space for entertaining, more space for cooking and preparing the food, more light, more connection to the backyard, being able to host more people, just, have more people than I think the dining room table, in this, sort of small version, small before options that could maybe fit 6 people around it, right? And then being able to expand and seat more people, host more people. Looking at the floor plans, you can see up in the upper left corner there's the before plan, which shows the kitchen, very, very functional, but not super great if you like to host big parties or have a big family, which this homeowner does. So the light green area is the area we were making changes to. And you can kind of see in the lower left corner, you can see the addition, sort of the little bump out there to the south. And then on the sort of lower right corner is the after plan. So we bumped out 7.5 feet by 16 feet. So that's 120 square feet. And so we rebuilt the stairs, and then we're able to expand the kitchen to accommodate an island. And then also to get rid of that peninsula, that barrier between the kitchen and the dining room, so that you do have the flexibility of being able to expand that table. So you can add in all the leaves and host Thanksgiving, which I guess they have, and it worked much, much better.
And here's sort of in process of the build. You can see the foundation going in and the floor joists. There's that garden window in front of the sink that's gonna be going away. You start to see the walls go up and the framing of the windows showing up in this photo. And in this rightmost photo, you can see the exterior weather membrane that we've used here. One of the things that's important to our company is that whether we're building a 120 square foot addition or a 1,000 square foot backyard cottage, we like to make sure that we're building right and that we're building in a way that's going to be healthy for the home. The rest of the home may have problems down the road, but our addition won't. That's our goal. And so we use, here's an example wall of the system that we use. It's called Vapor Smart Wall. And one of the reasons it's called that is that it has a product on the outside called Mento and a product on the inside called Intello. And both those allow to let the inside cavity of the wall breathe out, but keep water and moisture from getting into the wall systems. So it really helps to keep the home breathing well and creates a healthier building structure for the long haul. This is just an example photo. We weren't able to use the wood fiber board on this particular project. It creates a thermal break between the siding and the framing, which keeps your home cooler, keeps that heat from the outside from exchanging through the wood surfaces that are hitting each other. And in this example too, in this drawing, it shows the sheep's wool insulation, bat insulation. We weren't able to use that on this project. And truthfully, we don't get a lot of opportunities to use it because it is a more expensive solution. It's when there's budget available for it, it's really a fantastic solution in that it helps sequester carbon. It helps to clean the air in the space that you are occupying. And it's a really efficient insulation product as well. So here's some before and afters from the same viewpoints.
Yeah, we get back to that, looking at the old kitchen looking like it was dropped in from another planet. And then seeing on the right, the after photo where the kitchen definitely feels much more like it's part of the home. And you can see that, you know, you can't go directly to the outdoors from the dining room, but at least you know where to go. On the other way, you would have to ask your host, like, how do I get outside? Yeah, and definitely brings in a lot more light and air and space. And then, yeah, in this slide, you can see, you get an idea, probably better than the slide right before, of just sort of how dark that kitchen felt, because it just had really that one garden window and no other windows. And it always helps when you're able to be able to bring light into a space from more than one direction. So you start to get sort of a more richness of light. And, you know, we live in the Pacific Northwest with this lovely sort of daylight resource. I mean, it really is sort of a lovely quality of light, having lived in other parts of the country. Sometimes we have some clouds, but it's really nice to sort of bring that in and see. And then you can sort of see on the right-hand side where the line is, where it goes from a flat ceiling to the vaulted ceiling. And that's where the addition was added. And sort of adding that vaulted space also can sort of increase the drama and light and openness of the space.
Yeah, but I really like how in this slide you can see where the paintings are in the window of the dining rooms and then see that expansion that happens in the kitchen. It's a really, and just the overall impact that that makes. Here's some after photos, a little bit closer view. I think the, you know, Prairie and the homeowners she works with really work together to collaborate on the aesthetic that they're looking for and how that comes together. And this homeowner in particular had a very artistic sense, as you can see with all of her paintings and furnishings. And so really was trying to bring in unique features like that one just simple line of color, you know, not overstated that takes away from the beautiful windows or the cabinetry and the other artwork, but still brings a nice little band of color into the backsplash that coordinates so well with the other colors in the space.
Right. And then also, you know, being able to have those windows, you know, there are many sort of layers of stain and trial and error to try and get it to match the color of the existing windows. And I think everybody did a really good job there.
Yeah.
And I guess while we're here, Laura, we could talk about some of the sort of the green materials. You know, the Caesar stone countertop is a nice quartz composite that's sort of made using a sustainable process. And The cabinets are from David Bradley. You were doing a good job of talking about their sustainability practices.
Yeah, David Bradley is a semi-custom cabinetry manufacturer in Tacoma, and they just do a really good job of, from their manufacturing and their plant, how they act in the space and treat their employees and create safety protocols for their employees is part of a sustainable manufacturing system in my view. And they do a really good job of that, as well as just using low and no toxic materials, managing their waste products, and really trying to think through that piece. Sometimes one of the questions we get a lot of times when we're in person on the Green Home Tour and talking about cabinetry is sort of the differences between semi-custom and custom cabinetry. And I think with semi-custom, they have limited door styles, limited colors, and limited sizes that are of valuable price points. Most lines of cabinetry have usually or at least two lines, one that will be have less door styles and less stain colors and paint options, and be even more affordable than their other line that expands those options. And really the reason that it's more affordable isn't that it's made differently. It's just that with the limited options, they can manufacture it more quickly because there's less changes to their product line. And but they're made equally well. And so this one is, David Bradley is made by actually a company called Rainier Cabinetry. And so Rainier Cabinetry is their more expansive line, and then David Bradley is their more refined line, simple, the more limited solutions. And truthfully, when you get to the more expansive line, like Rainier Cabinetry's version, you can do custom solutions within the semi-custom manufacturer. At some point, if you're doing too many custom solutions, it starts to be about the same price as custom cabinetry. And then we usually direct people to the custom manufacturers, and they're local artisans. There's a number of great shops that we've used in the past and are going to be using here shortly, that will help maximize your space. I think that's one of the things, that you'll have some unique features in your home and in your space, and you're really trying to make things work. And when you try to sort of fit those nuances into a semi-custom line where they're used to sort of only a certain limit of changes, then there's a little bit more opportunity to not quite meet expectations. And the price goes up. And so if the price is going to go up enough that it's going to be the same cost as a custom cabinet, why not use a local artisan to do the work instead? And so that's sort of some of the differences there.
I wanted to mention we've had some new folks join us, so please, we're sort of working our way through the tour, but please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, or ask questions in the chat. Pretend like you're actually in the home with us, and you can pull us aside and ask a question.
Yeah, please. Butcher block is a great way to sort of change up the design a little bit instead of a monotonous of the same counter material. A lot of times people will choose a different material for their island. Butcher block is a popular choice. When you do a wood counter like butcher block, you have a couple of options. You can use a finish on it that is food grade and that you can cut onto. And another option that you wouldn't want to cut into, but it's it's still safe. It's just not food grade. And obviously, if you're cutting on your butcher block, then you're going to have more maintenance than you would if you're not. So that's a consideration too.
I've got a question for you.
What's that?
Can I get your opinion on the Prairie style sink? Personally, I'm not generally a fan, but I've seen some great applications. This one seems to work really well in this particular kitchen. And then I've seen a stainless one that worked well, but it's not my go-to. So I would like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something, I mean, it was a desire from the homeowner to have this style of sink. And I think she appreciated having, I think it's a single basin. So having one big basin so that you can, dunk large pans. I think you can fit a sheet pan in this. So it's, I think different people have different ways they do dishes. Um, so some people really like this, and I don't know. I like both having this sort of, farmhouse style or prairie style, as you called it. But I think also just the size of it really makes it useful.
Yeah.
More
I think one
flexible.
thing to point out is that when you do have this style sink, that the cabinet below it becomes a custom piece. So it's really important to know what sink you're putting in. There isn't any consistency with how deep that apron is on the front. The depthness of the sink matters a little bit less to the cabinetry than that front piece. And so that really impacts the size of the cabinet doors. And so you need to really make sure that you have that sink, especially now in COVID times. You really want to make sure you have that sink in hand before you order the cabinetry, because if you don't have it in hand and you go to order it later and it's not available, that could affect your cabinetry order and slow down the project pretty
Good point.
potentially, pretty substantially. So yeah, so that's a thing to keep in mind, where when you have a more typical under counter sink, the cabinet in front of the sink is pretty standard. It's just that you just have the installation different than an over the counter sink.
Right.
That's all good input. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question.
Let's see, this picture sort of shows some of the live wood shelving that we did in this corner and on each side of the windows. This one doesn't show as much. You see a little bit in the party corner. You can see it a little bit better in the 3D tour we'll do in a second. Again, we were talking a little bit about the artistry components and working with the homeowners on selecting how they want to do things. This backsplash behind the stove was the brainchild of the homeowner. And, we were able to work with her to do the backsplash that leads up to her piece, and then give her that blank slate to do herself. And with all the COVID delays, it worked out really well. There wasn't any competition of timeline as much as there can be in some other projects where there's that collaboration. And then the slate stone flooring materials.
And that was actually continuing. There was some existing slate in that little central hallway you see back beyond. And so we were able to sort of find something that wasn't maybe not an exact match, but close enough that it flowed and sort of connected to the existing house.
Absolutely.
You
want me to go back?
I was just going to point out that in this slide, you can see that refrigerator was actually the original it was already there. It's not a new fridge, but we were able to design that so that the wall behind it is where the stairs are going up to the upstairs. So that refrigerator is able to tuck in under those stairs and sort of give us just a little bit more space in the kitchen. Try and maximize every inch.
Nice.
And this is the new stairs. If you were here when we showed the photo of the old stairs, you can see this is bright and welcoming and a lovely stair to be on, as opposed to the old ones were kind of narrow and dark and a little
scary,
a little steep and treacherous. So this is much nicer. And the homeowner does a lot of work in the garden. And so this is a space where you can come in and kick your shoes off before you head into the rest of the house.
And again, that live edge shelving that you can see. And we use that for the bench as well in the mudroom space.
And this also actually on this view, you can see these cabinets on this side of that sort of stairway up to the kitchen. You know, we've got some cabinets that are facing this way that are sort of taller and, you know, use that full height. And then once you get up to the kitchen side, you know, they're back to back with kitchen cabinets that are sort of standard height. It's a nice way to give your contractor a headache trying to fit all those things together.
Yes. Even just figuring out how to order the cabinetry was just like a little bit of a juggernaut, a little bit of a challenge, but we got there. A few changes along the way, but we got there. Let's see. Oh yeah, and just the view to the backyard. Again, that live edge bench, tying into the kitchen, the unique artistic features of the coat rack there. Quick and easy place to hang up your jacket, as well as coat closet on the other side of the room that you can't quite see in this view. All that natural light coming in now and sort of a more gracious access to the backyard. Here's a detailed photo of the tile mosaic. The
pretty cool mosaic, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Again, feel free to jump in with any questions. It's always nice for us to take a moment so you can have time to ask them if you have them.
Okay. Bringing in some more artistic artisan features, tying, you know, she was just really thoughtful about tying in all the colors together between the materials.
And this shows, this is the new window that has been, you know, painstakingly stained to match the existing windows, but much more energy efficient.
Yeah, much. Party
and
corner.
The party corner.
Someone earlier said we need to trademark that.
So this is that same live edge salvaged wood, but the fine crafts people at Mighty House were able to sort of create these corner shelves that wrap around. It's just lovely, and you can see that exposed live edge there that really makes it sort of unique and beautiful.
On back to our Matterport. So if you come into the house from the front door, you have the option to go straight into the living room or take a right into the dining room. And as you come through the dining room, you have the kitchen now. And I think, you know, one of the things that became really clear to us is just how much more working space that they have as they like to collaborate and cooking meals with family and friends, especially as COVID restrictions start to lift. One of the ways that Prairie designed this to get that is by keeping some really narrow shelving and cabinetry over on the wine wall here. It's just deep enough to have some more pantry type items, corkscrews and cocktail napkins in that drawer. And then on the right have almost a buffet style cabinetry where you can put some, I think she's putting some more serving dishes kinds of things in there. And then when she does host other folks, she can serve from that buffet side as well as the island if necessary, and create that sort of circular pattern that folks like to have when they're trying to get lots of folks through their food lines. You can, and so then in order to not, you know, there's always opportunity. You can push into a house as much as possible, but I think one of the sustainable features that Prairie brings from a design point and we bring from the build point is to try to keep the impact of the house as minimal as possible to get people what they're looking for in their final solutions. And so here, you know, Prairie's located the fridge basically back into where the old staircase down to the outside was, so that we take up the least amount of square footage coming into the kitchen towards the dining room. And then that meant that the pantry cabinet was 12 inches deep, which is pretty typical. It's a less typical for these lower cabinets to be that narrow, but it worked out really well in this situation. And then in maximizing the, then it created a little bit more gracious opening here too. This got a little bit wider between the cabinets and the fridge so that it wasn't quite such a juggernaut getting back to the back bedrooms or going up the stairs to the second floor. And here's some more cabinetry views of the stove space.
You can see that lovely mosaic that the homeowner did.
Yeah,
she's so artistic.
I know, I love that. I love that. And then one of the other features of trying to sort of maximize space, I think I have to get turned around here, is in the island is putting the microwave in the island. I mean, you sort of have three main choices that people make about microwaves, is either it's in an island on the counter or like a upper shelf, or sometimes it's a microwave hood vent situation. We do try to steer people away from those because they're not great hood vents. They don't really do as powerful a job at getting the moisture and the smells out of your kitchen as just a standard vent will. So by putting in the island, you have to bend down a little bit and bring things up. As a 5'5" individual, I find that is way easier for me than reaching up into an upper shelf cabinet or above a stove that might have other hot things going on it and trying to bring out something heavy from there. It's a much more convenient spot. It made it trickier because we have it in our island, in our home. It definitely made it trickier when our kids were little to lock down the microwave. But, that was 15 years ago now, or 12, 15 years ago in that time frame. So they have a lot more options for locking down your microwaves. The kid can't do anything with it now than they did back then. Sometimes if people don't use their microwave much at all, they'll even opt to put it in their pantry cabinets. And that's a good solution if you're, not using it a lot. It obviously makes it a little bit more cumbersome if you do use it frequently. So we don't recommend it we will recommend it depending on how frequently you're using your microwave.
Right. And the same with a lot of those small appliances that sometimes it does make a lot of sense to create a little appliance barn where they live if you don't use them very often.
Yeah, nice. Let's see, what else? I like this view too, because you can kind of see the archway from the dining room to the living room and how we were able to mimic that between the dining and the kitchen, where before it was just sort of that, again, like Prairie says, sort of an alien dropped kitchen into this space that didn't match the rest of the house at all before. And it just sort of had a squared off access into the kitchen, where now we're able to sort of, again, integrate, not just from wood styles and stain colors and flooring materials, but also the archway and create those more similarities between the spaces, more cohesiveness.
Right. I see some new folks joined. Welcome.
Yeah.
Please let us know if you have any questions.
Hey, Michelle. Yeah, so here's that party corner up close and personal. You can see some of the fun live edge and that it's not all just straight like this board is, right? You get these really unique sizes and shapes and that works really well for some folks and less well for other folks. So it really depends on how you need to use your shelves. If suddenly you have a live edge that's dipping back too far, that can cause problems for your storage solution. So it may look cool, but it may not be functional for you. So it's important that you're choosing solutions and we're talking through what actual function you're looking for in a space.
Yeah. Definitely sacrificed a little bit of shelf space, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. She has enough storage other places that it was more about aesthetics and quick access of some items rather than needing the storage space of those shelves.
Right.
And this butcher block is something that one of the guild sponsors can often has Green Home Solutions. They have a lot of variety of butcher block materials. Unfortunately, we weren't able to use that on this project thanks to COVID trials and tribulations, but you can find butcher block that's made from reclaimed and salvaged wood as well. As you know, it's just a natural wood product is nice too. You can get it in bamboo, even if you bamboo island
really-
top if you wished.
It's really lovely options.
Yeah, for sure. And then circling out of the kitchen, and you can come back down the stairs and, you know, get out to the outside rather quickly. Dining table under the, it's all winterized right now, right? But oh, you can even see our photographer in the reflection of the door.
There he
That's
is.
fantastic. Just jumping in there. But, you know, just this really lovely access to the outside and being able to just, you know, be present in that kind of space. People don't have to ask anymore how they get outside from inside the house. They can see it real readily.
Laura, can you go out and turn around and look back at the addition?
I think so.
If you
Where
go
did
out.
she go
Yeah, there and this.
to? Or maybe there, and then I can turn around.
Yeah.
There we
Just to
go.
give you an idea of what it's like coming back in from the backyard. It's so much more welcoming than that, you know, sort of door into the side with the tiny little tiny little covering over it.
Yeah. For those that were here earlier, you might remember there was just a like little awning cover on the wall, and then, you know, just barely any kind of cover at all before stepping out to the outside. No graciousness to it at all.
Right.
And then this, you know, obviously this whole thing sat back into the space, and there was a garden window on the side of the house.
Very cool. Yes, thank you to new folks joining us. We're just going through our 3D tour now. So if you see anything you have questions about, please jump in with either text or unmute yourself and ask.
Yeah. Oh, and then Prairie, you want to mention the spice cabinet?
Oh yeah, it's kind of hard
looks
to
like
see.
it's doubled up right there, but
Maybe go to
see if I can get a different view.
location where we can see it a little better.
Yeah.
So it's something that was in the original kitchen, and I think it used to be one of those built-in ironing boards back when people ironed. I'm sure some people still do. But then along the way, it was turned into a spice cabinet, and it was the one thing about the existing kitchen that the homeowner really did quite love. So we were able to save that and reinstall it in a different wall, but now it can keep living its life there.
Oh. You back into the dining room.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions about items here, or we can go back to our PowerPoint and kind of show some befores and information about the build?
Well, I think, you know, before you hop out, Laura, like as we're standing here, you can see, you know, sort of the line of the ceiling above where it goes from flat to vaulted. So that's where the addition was. And then that new archway, you know, as we're about to go back to see the before pictures, that new archway between the kitchen and the dining was able to echo some of that original, you know, detail and the rest of the lovely house.
Absolutely. Right. Let's see. Kim has a question about budget-friendly CARB compliant or Green Guard certified cabinets locally. You know, I know Green Guard is definitely part of the David Bradley line, I believe, or in the Rainier Cabinetry line. I'm not sure if they are CARB compliant.
I think they probably are.
Yeah,
They're very similar in the specifications for those two programs.
okay. Yeah. There's more and more cabinet lines that are Green Guard available. I'm not familiar with crystal cabinets.
If you're thinking about budget lines, you know, in terms of the sustainable cabinets that you like to work with, what do you see as like your top contender if someone came to you with a tight budget and wanted your advice on the best option?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of different cabinet manufacturers locally, and even in Canada on the western bank of Canada, that are good lines. And um, I would say from a cost-effective standpoint that the David Bradley, which is owned by Rainier Cabinetry, so that line of cabinets, Canyon Creek and Belmont are probably the most cost-effective that also are sustainably manufactured and locally manufactured. All of those are in Western Washington. So um,
And I
that's definitely a piece.
I think you also spoke about this before, but being able to design your cabinets so that they don't require a whole lot of customization, if that's an option. Sometimes it's not,
Right,
but
right.
to have that.
Yeah. And we've done kitchen remodels too, where it was much smaller footprint and a much smaller budget situation, and where we infilled the existing cabinetry with some custom cabinetry that matched. And so that we're able to sort of keep their kitchen mostly intact. They just needed to fill in a hallway access to sort of maximize things. And then we were able to build custom cabinets to match the existing cabinets. And so that's sometimes an option too. If you need to move cabinetry around and you're trying to figure out how to put things together, you can sometimes just build a couple of things. And in fact, we have a blog post on our website, mightyhouseconstruction.com, where we talk about a home where they wanted to use their really old style cabinetry, and how so many contractors wouldn't even work with them around doing that. They just didn't want the hassle of reusing that same cabinetry. And but we didn't shy away from it. And then also we're able to expand on their kitchen with some custom pieces to match the existing.
Right.
Um,
I saw a question came in about the cost of the remodel.
Yeah, I looked that up more recently, and it was pushing about $200,000 in the end, with all the changes. There'd be ways to make this a little less expensive, but I would say that it's, today, well, today prices have gone up even more, but than it was last year at this time. But so you're probably looking at over 150 for the addition and the full remodel that we did here, which includes, it's not just a kitchen, right? There's a new mud entry, there's a whole new entrance to the backyard, there's a deck on that, there's the addition. So it's more than just a kitchen remodel.
Well, yeah, and it's a bit of a structural undertaking to sort of reconfigure the stairs, and so
Right.
there's some infrastructure that might not apply to your project if you're just looking at sort of what I would call a simple kitchen expansion, as opposed to the more convoluted multi-level kitchen addition that we ended up doing to make this work.
Can I ask a question at this point? So this sort of ties into how do you know who you need? Like, obviously, if you're adding square footage to the house, you need an architect as well as a general contractor. But we just purchased a new home this year. We have the 5-year plan wish list of projects.
Mhm.
And like, who do you need to do these different things? I just spoke to a kitchen and bath designer yesterday and was like, oh, you don't do the layout of the bathroom? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh no, we don't do that. And so
No.
I'm like, how do you
I've
know
recently, yeah.
Right.
When people
general contractor versus, and as things have different scales, do I really need to find like a whole new team for every different
Right.
thing? Like, I don't need an architect and a permit for this, but I don't know any carpenters. So, and then like, if I know what I want, can I just use a general contractor, or do I need a designer? Like, what are sort of those levels so like what you're looking for and who to reach out to?
One of the things that I like to tell folks, especially when they have recently bought a home and they're thinking about all the things that they want to do, and they're imagining how their needs might change in the home, is to put together a master plan. And that involves a designer, whether it involves an architect like Prairie or an interior designer, kind of depends on the scope of the project. And if there's structural changes, then you're going to want to have an architect involved, even if they're interior structural changes. Um, and but to create a master plan, because then you'll see opportunities and challenges with doing one project before the other. And you don't want to like do a kitchen remodel or a bathroom remodel only to realize that to maximize your next project, you're gonna have to tear apart part of that project. And that's always a big bummer. And most people then end up not tearing apart the existing project and having to compromise on in other ways with the other pieces of their bigger plan. And so really to put together a plan is useful. For us, even on smaller projects, we're really pushing folks to have a design, to have a layout, to at minimum get as-built drawings done, an elevation and floor plan, so that we can calculate properly for square footages, and that our suppliers and our trades partners can really put together more accurate bids, because they see all those square footages and all those nuances on a drawing, not just in their mind's eye. It also helps us to identify exactly what you're thinking. So oftentimes, back before we sort of required this piece, we would stand in a space and someone would say, I want a vanity about this big on that wall, and I want a new window over here. And in our mind's eye, that was one place, but in the homeowner's mind's eye, that was a different place. And so we'd build it where we thought that they were showing us as they pointed to a wall, but it would not be where they wanted it. And then whose fault is that? Is that us, that we built it wrong, or is it they told us wrong? And it becomes sort of this weird thing, right? But with a drawing that shows, oh, that window is going in, it starts 18 inches in from this wall, then we all know it's coming in 18 inches from that wall and have that expectation. And so we can definitely meet your needs better. Even things like tile layout. Tile can get complicated if you have like niches and accent tiles and edging opportunities and all those things. So having drawings that say, this is what tile we want here and here and here, and this is the layout of the tile, will really help us be more successful with you, instead of there being a misunderstanding between words and pointing at things. As far as who does the project, you can have a variety of team for that. I mean, obviously I'm partial to a general contractor being involved, but sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes it's a small enough project and you want to do a piece and then just hire out other small pieces of the project. And then maybe a handy person firm that has one or two people involved can do that project. Or maybe it is has a lot of complicated pieces that involve trades partners and different suppliers, and having someone else coordinate that and manage that is appropriate. I mean, one of the things to always consider when you're deciding whether to general contract or be your own GC or to hire that out is that when problems come up, it's your time that's going to have to resolve those problems. And so depending on, if you're working or have a bunch of kids or have family obligations in other ways, like that may or may not mean that your project can move forward in a streamlined fashion.
Well, and I think also, being pro general contractor, having a general contractor can be your advocate, and they have good relationships with all these subs. So there's something that comes up and you need an electrician right away, they've got someone on speed dial. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it can be hard for homeowners who are doing their own general contracting to, so particularly now when everyone's busy, to get the attention of subs and sort of get people there in a timely schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, it's sort of a human nature thing. If an electrician knows that they're going to get 20 jobs from me in a year versus your one job, and maybe get a referral to one of your friends down the road, they're going to be more excited about the work they're getting from me than from the one homeowner, right? And so it's definitely harder to reach those trades partners now as a single homeowner than it is through the general contractors, for sure. And and the thing is too that a general contractor knows when something's not being done right. You as a homeowner who may not have experience in the trades won't necessarily know if someone's doing a shoddy job. It might look good, but it may not be done right. And so so it depends on what the project is and what the risk factors are of it not being done right.
Right.
I had one homeowner come to me and she was talking about other projects and she's like, while you're here, which happens a lot, can you come look at my bathroom? And she's like, I had my bathroom remodeled and all the bids I was getting to have it remodeled were in the tens of thousands of dollars. And this other guy said he would do it for $5,000. And so I hired him and the tile was atrocious. And she's like, what can I do to fix this? And there wasn't anything she could do to fix it. She would just have to take it all out and start from scratch, which was a depressing thing to tell her from my standpoint.
Then can you speak to, so if this is the ballpark 150,000 to 200,000, at what size of job is a general contractor interested in working for you? Like what's the smallest job you can get that expertise to support you typically?
It really varies greatly. Our company, I would say smaller jobs for us are around $20,000 typically.
Okay.
And then we work on projects up to $500,000. So we don't shy away from smaller projects. Other general contractors will.
Many will. I mean,
Yeah.
some, if it's under 100,000, they don't want to mobilize for it.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah. And even some designers. I've had
That's
some
true.
architects say that if it's a project that's going to be less than 100,000, they don't think that the homeowner will be interested in engaging in the design services that they provide. And so, that can vary too. I would say, for us, we have, when we have a bigger project going on, we can stitch in a smaller project. And when the trades partners have monopolized the site. So for us, it makes sense. We usually have a couple of teams of 2 to 3 people in the field, but that's not the case for all general. So it just kind of depends.
Right. So that was a long answer to your question. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
I just feel like, what do we do?
Yeah.
I definitely feel the screening out of the size of the project is not sufficient. And so like, what's the other option? So that's kind of where we're stuck at.
Yeah.
And we've burned through our referrals and I've spent so much time getting bids and people never call back. And
I think
what do we do?
The approach that Laura was talking about of doing a master plan. So even when you do approach people and say, hey, I want to do the kitchen now, but look, here is all these other things I'm planning to do in the future. They may be more willing to say, okay, this may be smaller than what we would ordinarily take on, but we would value having a client who has, some future work potentially.
Yep.
And then one last question. Sorry if I'm monopolizing the session. So we have accepted we need more like of a general contractor support than we have because it's just we just don't have the network of skilled people. Right. And so can you speak to the difference between independent designer and GC versus design builds? Like why do you have the model you have and what's sort of the benefit of that?
Yeah, well, we've been in business now for 12 years and we do every 18 months or so have that conversation with ourselves of does it make sense to be design build or not? And most of the time when we're having that conversation, it's because we're looking at some smaller projects where the homeowners are really hesitant to bring in a designer and feel, because they feel like bringing in another entity is going to be more expensive. And then we wonder if we just had it in-house, you know, it'd be easier to get them to that point. And having those designs just really does greatly impact our ability to do the work more efficiently and to better satisfaction by everyone. So, but we've decided that most of the time we end up with deciding that having the variety of designers available to us, and personalities and style changes and capabilities is really a better benefit to our customer base. You know, we refer Prairie often. We have another list of maybe
Thank
five
you.
or you're welcome, 5 or 10 between interior designers and architects that we refer depending on what the project is, the personality of the person that we're talking to, who we think will be the best fit for them. And we think that that's an important piece. The design, like you need to have trust in us to build the project and to build it on budget and in a timely way and all of those pieces, and to like us because we're going to be in your space, in your home around you a lot. But it's also really important that your designer is hearing you and designing things that you want designed in the way you want it designed. And, you know, I mean, just like we experience in the world in other ways, like sometimes you say words to one person and they just aren't translating it the way you intend it to be translated. And that happens with design and homeowners also. So just finding someone that's really hearing you and respecting what you're saying is an important piece. And we just find that we have that more flexibility in keeping the design team separate than we do in incorporating it.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper too, actually, as it turns out, I recently learned, because as a solo design firm, if you're just a design firm, you don't have to charge sales tax on your services, but design build companies are supposed to charge sales tax on their design services because there's intent to build and influence the real cost of real property per the state.
And Laura, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I'm realizing we are getting close to the end of our tour time. And I think we also have a last slide there that had some takeaways. If there were any specifics you saw, this is where you would see, you know, the names of the products, you know, the second use for salvaged materials, green home solutions for many of these different products. Caesar stone was a great option for the countertop. The Milgard windows are a great option for fiberglass windows. I think we already talked about the David Bradley cabinets. Oh, you know, the under cabinet lighting are those little LED strip lights, super efficient and sort of assembled here locally.
Yeah, great manufacturer. Really
responsive and fairly cost effective and quick turnaround. It's a nice way to get custom functionality at a good price.
Yeah, and they'll really help you through what the best choice of their products is for your situation, which is, you know, they have a nice customer service piece for them for sure. And then for building systems and wall systems and ventilation and a lot of those kinds of pieces, we often use 475 high performance building supply to obtain those things. They have a lot of great products available and are able to really meet our energy efficiency and healthy building goals.
I think we're about to get kicked out. So
yeah.
Please join us. There's not tomorrow, but next Saturday and the Saturday after that, there are more homes on the Green Home Tour. Laura has another home that she's showing, and I also have another home that I'm showing. So, and then there's many, many more. So
All right.
Please come back and see us then and see all the cool things that people are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.